Well, now how come you have to be in every single video I try to do? You gotta have your nose up there. You cannot have that. You get down, get down, get down. Hey everybody, it's Robert Earl out here at the Eco Ranch in Far West Texas, and yes, I'm in the Chaos Kitchen. That means we are going to be talking about food. The Chaos Kitchen in my pajamas because it's early in the morning and it is a miserable day. We're expecting a cold front to come through and we're going to get some rain. Plus, I hurt my back working on the stone wall, so I don't have much to do, except I went into town yesterday because it was Friday, and I go into town on Friday. I stopped by our local food bank. Now, Debbie and I don't get our food from the food bank because even though we don't have a lot of money, we have more money than a lot of the folks do that need the food. So I went by there, and the fellow that runs it said, hey, I've got all these cabbages here, and they're going to go bad. And he also had a big bag of flour, and he said, hey, this flour's not going to stay real good either. I said, could you use the cabbages? Now, with people that remember the Depression, which they're just about all dead now, I can't believe how old I am. I remember when those people were like, they were like 40, and I remember them telling me about how they lived through the Depression. Well, those people, they had to, because America just was on its back. And they had to find ways to stretch whatever they could and make things work. So they did take things like the spoiled cabbage and use it, which a lot of you folks won't do. But if you get an opportunity to get things like this, and yeah, you know, well, I'm too classy, or it's embarrassing for me to eat like a peasant. Well, yeah, it's embarrassing for you to go bankrupt too. It's embarrassing for you to have the Beamer repossessed also. So, you know, let's sit back quietly and think about your priorities, because you and I know that if you could find a way to save $100, $150 a month off of your food bill by spending literally 5 hours a week in the kitchen that you would have spent anyway watching some stupid TV program or working on a smart-ass phone, you know, I would do it. I certainly would do it. Now, yeah, I got free cabbage here, and I slaughtered my own pig, and not every one of you is going to go kill something and drag it home. I understand that. But there are times when you go into the store, cabbage is what? Depending on where you live, cabbage can be anywhere from 20 cents a pound to, I've seen it as high as $1 a pound for a cabbage. But sometimes it's on sale. You go in, it's 20 cents a pound, buy 3 or 4 cabbages, and hopefully you have already found pork on sale for 79 cents a pound, and yes, it does get that low. Or chicken. I mean, I get chicken thighs sometimes at 29 cents a pound. It's a loss leader to get me in there. Well, hey, it's a loss leader. They can take the loss, and I'm going to lead myself right out the door with all those thighs, and I'm not going to buy other stuff. I've got that chicken ground up. I've got my pork. Now I got this on sale. Just thinking about that while you're in the grocery store doesn't cost you anything, and it might add 5 minutes, maybe, to your shopping, maybe. So, you get the cabbage on sale, you've got the meat on sale, you always have onions and garlic, or you should have onions and garlic, and you always have salt and pepper. Well, guess what? The only other thing you need to make stuffed cabbage is you, and some tomato sauce. But you can even do it with chicken broth or water or beef broth. Not a big deal. To make the pierogies that we're going to make, flour, salt, egg. Roll it out, cut it, put the chopped up cooked cabbage in it, seal it up, freeze it. Then get it out when you want. It's an instant meal that's just as fast or faster than putting the Marie Callender's in the oven, except you're going to be Marie Callender making it. So the name of the game in the coming world, the world where we're going to start to have our resources get really, really strained and our food system get really, really strained, the name of the game is to do the most that you can with the least. And this is what, when I get in the Chaos Kitchen like this, I'm trying to show you. So let me get some clothes on and comb my hair and look as presentable as I can, and we'll get going on this. Well, I got out of those pajamas just in time, man. It's running around 55 degrees, which is frigid for us here. And I got about a 14, 15 mile an hour wind blowing and gusting up. Got a storm coming in from the south, which for us is not good because that's where they come from. But I got everything ready. I want to show you real quickly. I have about 5 cups of rice. Now I took about a cup out of here and ran it through the meat grinder. That's a little trick you always want to remember, is have a potato or some rice or some bread handy. If you use your meat grinder, run everything through your meat grinder. You always have some meat left in the tube there, and run something cheap through there to get the meat out, which is what I did, and then the rice just came out and I scooped out the rest of the rice, but I didn't lose any meat that way. So about 5 cups of rice here to 8 pounds of medium grind pork. This is a fresh pork, medium ground. I'm putting 1 onion in the 8 pounds. You can do 2 onions easily enough. You can do 3 onions. Some garlic. Oh, this is probably 5-6 cloves of garlic here. You need the garlic, which I forgot to say something about earlier. And then over here, let me take this down out of the way. Here's the cabbage I'm going to use. Now the cold is going to stop me from doing more, but this meat will be cooked, so I can refrigerate it for a few days until I get some more heat here. But I want to do this today. We're going to give up on pierogies today because of the cold, but I am going to prepare both a cabbage and a potato filling for the pierogies, and we'll do a separate video on the pierogies. But I wanted to show you. I've got the cabbages here. Which of these cabbages were the spoiled ones that were in that bag that looked so nasty that he wanted me to give to the chickens? Can you tell? Was it this one? Was it this one? Which one? Well, it was this one. And this one, and this one. Now, one of them was quite bad, so I cut off all the bad parts. So I really don't have something I can make stuffed cabbage with, but that's all right, because I have to use cabbage leaves on the bottom as I'm baking them, and I have to have chopped cabbage anyway for the pierogies. So here we go. This was going away. This was garbage. Food that was wasted food. Got this all ready. So what I do now, I'm going to blanch each cabbage until the leaves come off easily. And I'm going to do that and get a whole huge pile of leaves, because I can get, I can have 300 leaves sitting there waiting for me. When you blanch them, you're pretty much, I would say probably 80% cooking them. You want them soft and pliable enough that you can roll your meat up in it. And again, I'll show you that. So anyway, let me get these, I'm going to get these all boiled, parboiled, blanched black, and ready to wrap with, and I'll show you. Also, let me tell you this. Some recipes, and it's authentic Polish either way, some recipes say cook the meat, some recipes say use the meat raw. I learned to cook it, not use it raw. Either way is perfectly all right. And there's one more thing. Down here, if you've seen any of my other videos, this is the 100-year-old soup pot. I've got some chicken in here and some pork bones. And some other broth, of course, the 100-year-old broth that's been sitting there. So, as we blanch this, then I'm going to take and cook the potatoes for the pierogies in the same water. And can you see it? Yes, you can see this pot. Again, if you've watched my videos, this is my dad's old pasta pot. This son of a gun's probably 80 years old. I once said 70. It's probably 80 years old. Got my dad's pasta pot here. It's going to be boiling very shortly. Blanch this in. Now what I'm going to be left with is about 1 gallon to 1.5 gallons of water that we've cooked cabbage and potatoes in. Don't throw that away. That's broth. That's soup. I'm going to put it in a 100-year-old soup mix, and then when I'm ready to make the soup, which won't be today, put that on the stove, cook down my soup, and I've got all the advantage of the of what the cabbage, the minerals and vitamins in the cabbage and the potatoes. And you're going to devein. I'll show you the deveining. But you're going to devein each leaf. This is the vein. And you carefully use your sharp paring knife and cut that out so it folds better. Each one of those veins goes in the 100-year soup pot. So with that, let's get to work. I'll be back in a moment. Hey, let's talk about deveining. Now, I mentioned deveining, but a lot of people... I can keep myself in the frame here. A lot of people don't know what deveining is. I can say, well, let's devein it. Yeah, well, okay, how do I devein it? I don't even know how to devein a shrimp. Well, here, I've parboiled the cabbage. I've got a real flexible leaf here. But right down the center here is the vein. This is, the stem. It's the center part of the leaf. And it doesn't bend that easily. So you take a sharp knife. Now, let me just talk about sharp knives for a second. Any good chef will tell you that there are more people cut by a dull knife than by a sharp knife. So always, always, always keep a sharp knife. I just sharpened my paring knife here. You start up, about where the vein starts to get thick. Right about here is where it begins to get thick. You slide that paring knife right down in there and you start shaving it. And all you're doing is just shaving it down to the same thickness as the rest of the leaf. Now it's nice and pliable and it will bend. That's all you do. Now here's the leaves from the spoiled cabbage, the ones he said to feed to my chickens. Here's the leaves from the spoiled cabbage. There is enough here, once they're filled, to feed a family of 4 a lot of food for 2 meals. This was spoiled. Throw it away, he said. Actually, don't throw it away, feed it to the chickens. Plus, I have this, which is what's left of the 2 that I was removing the leaves from, and I still have this one. This one for the pierogi, and this here, I'll spread these leaves down on the bottom of each pan as we bake it. We'll get into that in a few minutes. So I wanted to show you. Well, folks, the weather's going downhill fast. All I can get done is this, but we'll get it done. Now, I've got the cabbage all set up. I cooked the potatoes to make the pierogies later. And got them in a Tupperware to put in the refrigerator, as well as straining off all that water that we boiled the cabbage in and the potatoes. Put that into my 100-year-old soup. Now my 100-year-old soup is ready to recook, restrain, so I have more soup. So far we've had a real economy of energy, both physical and propane energy. Now the first step we've got to do to make the filling for this. For the Golabki, for the stuffed cabbage, I decided to go ahead with the 2 onions. So I went ahead with 2 onions. Remember, that's 8 pounds of meat. I'm probably going to be freezing some of it, and I can refreeze it because it's going to be cooked when I freeze it. So over here in my dad's big pasta pot, I've got about 3 tablespoons of oil. We're going to saute these onions until they're nice and clear, and even a little bit beyond that. I don't like onions that are crunchy. If you like onions that are crunchy, you can put it directly into the meat. Again, if you're doing raw meat, if you're going to follow my recipe, let's follow my recipe. But here's the thing. You can put the raw onion in the cooked meat and then cook the onion when you cook the cabbage rolls in the oven. Or you can go ahead and saute the onions now if you're like me and don't like crunchy onions. I've never liked real crunchy onions. I don't like tomatoes, but I love tomatoes in food, so take that for what it is. Anyway, I'll come back in just a minute and show you some more of how to do the filling. So, before I freeze to death, here's another little hint. Now I've sauteed the onions, I've got them about where I want them, but I know that this pork has a lot of fat in it, so I'm going to have to drain the fat off or I'll end up with something that's virtually inedible because of the fat. So if I put the pork in with the onions that I just sauteed and then drain the fat out, I'm going to drain away a lot of the flavor of the onions. So I took the onions and put the onions in here, in this little pan, took them out. They're going to sit until I have drained this. Then I'm going to mix it back in with my spices. So I just take the 8 pounds of meat in Dad's trusty pot and let my trusty partner clean out the bowl. And I'm going to get to peeling tomatoes. Debbie and I had 1 tomato plant. We've had it for quite some time, and it had, I don't know, 30 tomatoes on it. Green tomatoes. Well, this cold snap we had recently made these ripen in a matter of a couple of days. There's no way Debbie can eat them all, so I'm actually in the process right now of peeling these to make the tomatoes for the sauce that goes over the stuffed cabbage. So, again, making use of everything as we can. And the thing about this is, we're so used to walking into the grocery store and, I'd like a kiwi. Well, it's not kiwi season, but there's kiwis growing now all over the northern and southern hemisphere, so you can always get a kiwi, you can always get a grapefruit, you can always get an orange. Yeah, it's traveled thousands of miles, which we don't like, but instead, if we do everything seasonally, we have to do things when the season is in season. I guess that's the easiest way to say it. Or for a better example, I got cabbage, I got onions. I mean, I got onions, well, the onions can keep, but I got tomatoes. I got a cold day, I got to work anyway. If I'm going to make this and make the best out of the cabbage, I have to do it today. Sun's coming out a little bit, but don't let that fool you. We're still getting rain. Hey, the meat's almost done. Now, as it turns out, for a happy surprise, this was some of the lean pork meat. So there's very, very little pork fat in here. And of course, fat is flavor, so you don't want to take it all out. Leaving it in, I already just put the onions back in along with my spices. Now, if you go online and you look for a recipe for stuffed cabbages, you'll find 100 of them. If you find one that's got like 32 ingredients, it's got white wine, it's got all these other spices in there, that's some dummy from the cooking channel and not that all the people on the cooking channel are dummies, but it's just some dumbass chef trying to make his stuff taste special, and all he's doing is making it taste like some kind of garbage that isn't the original Polish recipe. Remember, we're dealing with stuff that was peasant food. The reason they're making stuffed cabbage is because they can't eat a big old slab of pork because there isn't enough to go around, so they grind up the pork. It's the same thing when you run into a recipe that says, take a cabbage leaf and put a half a cup of meat in it. Well, first of all, I don't have cabbage that big that I can afford, that I'm able to put a half a cup of meat in. Secondly, a half a cup of meat's a lot of meat. They put a little bit of meat that was really scarce and hard for them to buy in a cabbage leaf that wasn't very scarce, or 2 cabbage leaves, wrapped it up, cooked it, and ate that, and it stretched it. So when you're dealing with peasant food, it's flavorful, it's delicious, and it has a few ingredients only in it. So here's what my ingredients are. Salt, black pepper. I put a little marjoram in. No recipe asks for marjoram. I put a little bit in. In fact, if you're writing down my recipe, it was a tablespoon of black pepper and a teaspoon and maybe a half of marjoram. About 5 cups of cooked rice, and that's about it. Except we're going to cook it in tomato sauce, which I'll show you. But that's it. That's simple ingredients, and it all comes together in something that's very delicious. It's every bit as good as the one that tells you what brand of wine to put in, and put in a cup and a half of this guy's wine. And don't get into expensive ingredients. Don't buy things, for example, like parboiled or converted rice. Don't buy converted rice to put in anything. Cook your own rice. It doesn't matter what religion your rice is or changed over to. You don't need converted rice at 3 times the price. Get the bulk rice, learn how to cook it. It's very simple to cook. That's all I did here. Oh, you know, I forgot something else too. Boy, I'm very forgetful. This is going to be all chopped and cut up, but if you've watched my videos, they all are, and if they're not chopped and cut up, they go wah, 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 like old Charlie Brown. Anyway, getting back to the peasant food aspect of it, that's why there's rice in there. The rice, you throw the rice in to stretch it. Now obviously back in the 15th, 16th, and 17th centuries, they didn't have rice in Poland. And in most of Eastern Europe, as far as I know. But what they would put in there is breadcrumbs. They'd always have old stale bread laying around. They chop up the old stale bread, put the stale bread in. And just like you're making meatloaf with stale bread. So you can also put breadcrumbs in. It's still authentic if you put breadcrumbs in. Put a lot in. You're stretching that meat. And all the flavors are going to be just fine. But that's the idea behind the rice, and like I say, if you want to put breadcrumbs, that's fine. But the idea behind the rice is it stretched that meat. It took a portion of meat that wouldn't even fill me up, and stretched it to feed a family of 4 or 6 or even 8 farmers in Poland, because it is peasant food. It's the kind of food that those of us, if you're like me, you didn't originate here in the North American continent. You came from somewhere else. My ancestors on both sides came from Germany. we ate a lot of other things like cabbage, particularly cabbage, where my families came from and where Debbie's families came from. A lot of cabbage they ate. A lot of potatoes for other people, a lot of rice for Asians. All kinds of different things. So anyway, that's the whole reason behind putting the rice in, is to stretch it. You could absolutely substitute breadcrumbs if you want. Well guys, I moved indoors because that wind is getting up there and we're down to 52 degrees. So let me tell you what I did. I don't have a lot of big casseroles, big long lasagna pans. They've broken over the years and I keep forgetting to replace them when I have money. So I do have these two really nice cast iron pans, and I've got a couple of Corningware pans. So I'm going to use these. Now what I've done with my big Dutch oven here is I've greased it. And the reason I greased it was I just don't want my cabbage rolls to stick. Now they're probably not going to stick anyway, because I'm going to take, so this is the leftover cabbage, the ones that, the part that was just, by the time we got down to these leaves, they're just too small to really, that's Mercury. Mercury is 28 years old and he's going to talk through this. But these are the leaves that were just too small to make into a real good cabbage roll. So what we're going to do with these leaves is I'm going to take these leaves and put them in the very bottom. This is why I was saying, well, I'm not so sure it'll stick anyway, because the cabbage leaves will stick. But the thing is, this stuff is so good, it really is tasty, that you want to eat these cabbage leaves, and the last thing you want is them to be stuck. So there, I've got that line. I'm going to put that out of our sight. Now, I got to put the cabbage somewhere. We'll put the cabbage right there. Now, when you're making these, remember I've already blanched these. I've already deveined them, so we're just ready to go ahead and make the cabbage roll. And I'm going to get you zoomed in on that. So here we are. We've laid the cabbage roll down. Now we're going to take a bit. That's no half a cup like that one recipe I saw online showed. We're going to take a good bit and put it in there. That's about enough. You take it and you go up, roll it, one time like so. You see I got all that meat in there. Now you bring this side in and this side in like that. Get them in nice so that when you make the next roll, it rolls right up in. There's your cabbage. Whoops, sorry. There's your cabbage roll right like that. You could almost take it and just crunch it right up right now. But take your cabbage roll, put it right at the edge of your Dutch oven, or your casserole, whatever you've got to put it in, and repeat and repeat and repeat until I've completely filled this. So I'm going to do that, and then we'll add the tomatoes. Well, it's a good thing that I came inside. I know you can't see all my face. I can't get any lower because I'm old. But it's a good thing I came inside because the rain we were waiting for all day finally got here. So I've got 3 ready to put tomato sauce on and pop in the oven. And I've got about a third, maybe 40% of the meat left. And I have just about enough cabbage leaves left. But I only have 1 more container, so I'm going to have to do this in shifts. So let me get the tomato sauce poured right on, and in fact, let me show you the tomato sauce. Now all you're going to do is you're just going to add a can of, I said tomato sauce, you're going to add a can of tomatoes. You can use whole tomatoes, you can use diced, you can use crushed, whatever you want. I have 3 of these, and I have 1 Rotel that's got a little bit of spice in it. But if I mix all 4 cans together, that'll give me enough to cover everything. Now the tomatoes that I harvested from our tomato plant are all peeled, and I'm going to put those on the one we're going to have for dinner tonight, which is this one here with a little bit of water only. So let me get that going, and then we will finish up by showing you the finished cooked meal. And there you go, the finished meal. I'm really hungry, so I'm eating for 2 tonight because I'm really hungry after that whole day out in the cold. It's all ready. The others are out of the oven. They're going to cool overnight. I'm going to package them up and freeze them, and I will have Golabki or stuffed cabbage for the next, well, I'm probably going to have 10 or 12 portions. Okay, well, thank you guys for spending the day with me as we cooked a whole bunch of stuffed cabbages, or as your Polska babcia would say, over that silly bird. Let's try that again. Or as your Polska babcia would say, Golabki, and corn to give it some color. And if you give this a try, and I certainly hope you do, I know you'll like it. And it always brings back memories to me of Debbie's grandmother, and particularly of Debbie's aunt. Debbie's aunt was the keeper of the Golabki family recipes, family Polish recipes. And she ate my Golabkis and she ate my pierogies, and she told me they tasted just like her own. And to me, that's the highest compliment anyone could pay me. And particularly today, it was kind of a nice and I guess you'd say melancholy day cooking them, because last week we lost Debbie's aunt. She was, I think, 83 years old and had been ill. So she had a very, very wonderful life. She leaves behind a wonderful family. And she leaves behind these wonderful recipes for her family, and the ones that that I developed on my own that she said she liked. So before Mercury goes nuts asking for food, I'm going to wish all of you happy eating, and thank you for watching this. And until next time, from Mercury, the Wonder Bird, it's Robert Earl at the Eco Ranch. Bye for now. Hi. Well, I hope you've enjoyed my video. I'm going to be putting this little tag at the end of every video. You know, when Debbie and I started this journey into sustainability in 2002, the idea was to preach to other baby boomers that were in their last 10 years of work on how they can retire with dignity. Well, it stretched out for so many reasons over 15 years, and here we sit. The baby boomers that are older than me are 70-ish or pushing 70, and not all of them are in this kind of shape, so they can't get out and do it. So we're looking at the X and the Y generation. Let's not call them generations. We're just looking at the younger folks now and saying, hey, you can do it too. You can live with dignity. And I want to finish this project. I'm sitting here in the chicken coop, the unfinished chicken coop, right now. Now, Debbie and I live comfortably on our Social Security, but we can't finish the project using the Social Security. I need help from people. That's why I put a donate button up in the upper corner of our main page of the channel. You can donate there to help me finish this project by making a donation through PayPal there. You can also make a direct donation to us through PayPal at robert@singingturkeys.com, which I'm going to put in the runner here. And mainly what I need to do is I need lumber to finish this roof with, and I need mortar. That's not mortar, but I need Portland. Portland is the big thing we need. I figure I need about 300 more bags of Portland. They're $10 a bag, so every $10 buys me one bag of Portland and keeps me busy for a good solid day. And I need your help, if you're in a position to help. Because I can't do it alone. I can only buy a few bags a month on our Social Security. So I put this little tag in there to ask if you have the ability to help. Help. If you don't, hey, keep watching the videos. I'm sure you can pick up something. And help me out also in another way. And that is to pass around this channel to people you know that might be interested. Anyone you know that might be interested. Even a couple of billionaires that might want to donate a little bit of money to help me finish the project. But I need a little help with it, because 300 bags of Portland is a little expensive, and that's what it's going to take to finish this. And I've got to run all this roof. I have the roofing. Somebody in our family gave us the money to buy all the roofing. So I have all the roofing. I just don't have the lumber to put the roofing on with. So that's why I'm putting this tag at the end of all my videos. If you're in a position to, give me a hand. If you're not in a position to, hey, pass the channel on to other people. Maybe they'd be interested, and maybe some of them might want to help a little bit too. Every 10 bucks brings me a day closer, and you know, let's say about 30-35 stones closer to finishing. Thanks a lot for your help and for watching. There'll be other videos coming.